Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So, here begins the first in a long series of videos talking about the cutscene that we got earlier this week. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. There are a few topics that we could talk about when it comes to all of this, but I think the first thing that we really need to dive into here is the Witness and its origins, because now we truly understand everything that was said by Asa throughout the weeks, and how it pertains to the Witness's origins. So let's break down what Asa said, break down the cutscene alongside that, and also look at a few other surprising sources of information that might well have been hinting to the origin story of Destiny's main villain for the longest time. So there are several messages from Asa that preceded this moment in the story. Let's just go ahead and take a listen to them week by week, starting with week 1.
An oasis in the desert. Seeds of hope buried beneath the sands. Nomads, wanderers, travelers. Their journey comes to an end. The first to be claimed by the deep. The first to fall victim to the Witness.
In the cutscene, we saw this series of events that Asa describes playing out from start to finish. The predecessors to the Witness were a nomadic people wandering their desert homeworld until they found the Traveler, rising and stuck in the earth. This was their desert oasis, their seeds of hope buried beneath the sand. Finding the Traveler made them leave behind their nomadic lifestyle to build a civilization around the Traveler. This was the end of their travels, but it was also something that set them up to be the first claimed by the deep and the first victims of the Witness. It's something odd here, and I feel like it is just a poor interpretation of things on my end, but maybe there's a distinction between the Witness and the deep here. It feels as though an odd distinction can be drawn there. We know that the people of this precursor civilization all died in the formation of the Witness, but the idea that they were the first to be claimed by the deep might imply some distinction between both the deep and the Witness. Maybe it's this idea that they were claimed by obsession with darkness. Maybe the deep is something different entirely that has claimed obsession within the Witness. However, it could just be the case that it's a different ideology. This idea that the darkness can be used for control. All of that's very speculative, but it's worth keeping in mind there are a few different phrases, such as the winnower and the deep, which can kind of still be carved away from the Witness. It's not completely confirmed, but I would look out for the phrase of the winnower in particular as time goes on. In the second week, we heard this from Asa.
A city of light. A flourishing garden. A silent god withholds a deeper truth. Questions unanswered, longing unfulfilled. The sky darkens as a new journey begins.
This week displayed the build-up of the precursor civilization around the Traveler. It also displays the discontent of the precursors, as they were both discontent with their lack of purpose and were displeased with the silence of the Traveler. The unanswered questions might refer to how the predecessors believed that there was random suffering created by the light, and that it was cruel, and thus they had a desire to know why it existed. The sky darkening as the new journey begins might reference the arrival of the Veil, the understanding of the darkness being gained by the predecessors, the departure of the Traveler, or all three of these things at once. The next week, however, is a moment where Asa spoke much more distinctly about the relationship between the Veil and the Traveler. Take a listen.
Shrouded in darkness. A promise of something more. Two halves of a whole, long divided. A schism between them. Reunited. A glimpse beyond to the beginning.
In this week, Asa referenced how the predecessors discovered the Veil and how there was a division between it and the Traveler from long before their time. The idea of them reuniting is really important because it supposedly might reference a glimpse into the beginning. The beginning of what, you might ask, and that really is the tantalizing point of all that. If the predecessors believed that the darkness could be used to reshape the universe, then perhaps this is how. By the means of traveling to the beginning of everything and reshaping things from there, at the beginning of time, where you could have ultimate control over all timelines. That's a topic for a whole other video if that's the case, and there are lots of Vex-shaped shenanigans to that. It explains a whole lot of things that I theorized about the Veil earlier, back in the time of Lightfall, where we talked about the idea that maybe time travel is involved, and maybe the reasons of the Vex of the Black Garden, the Sol progeny, trying to replicate the Veil and using some kind of power of time travel. Maybe all of that fits in? I don't know, it's still kind of unclear. Regardless, if the idea is that the portal would allow us to go back to the beginning, that tells us a whole lot. More than just any of the time travel shenanigans, perhaps we know exactly where Cayde is on the other side of the portal. Or more accurately, when Cayde is. In the final week before the cutscene, Asa relayed this information.
Anathema. Calamity. That which cannot, must not come to pass. A wordless denial. A fleeting God. Betrayal. And escape. The pursuit for the final shape.
This week characterizes emotion, more specifically the emotion of the predecessors as the Traveler was leaving. They felt betrayal as the Traveler fled, and refused to allow them to reshape the universe. The use of the word anathema is very important here, because it essentially implies that from the perspective of the predecessors, the Traveler's choice to abandon them after they attempted to merge it with the Veil and strengthen its link was completely contrary to their beliefs. It defied their purpose. Given that reshaping the universe had become that purpose, it is likely that the predecessors even saw that decision by the Traveler to leave them as deadly to everything that they were. In the context of a nation, one might call an action like that treasonous. In the context of a religion, it might be called heresy. In the context of the predecessors, it makes sense for them to call this a calamity. The idea that this continued suffering must not come to pass also aligns with the stated purpose of the predecessors, to remove suffering and chaos from the universe, but the pursuit of the Traveler would unquestionably lead to the final shape itself. This much is known without a shadow of a doubt. Those 4 weeks worth of dialogue fit well with everything being displayed in the cutscene, but the thing that really astounds me is that I think, and I'm pretty sure anyone else who sees this will potentially get the idea, that there were hints towards this moment from before we even saw our first pyramid ship in-game. And I really do mean like before Shadowkeep here. Like, I know we saw a pyramid ship or two, an entire fleet of them in fact, at the very end of D2 Vanilla, but the point is, yeah, we didn't even really know about the pyramid ships properly up until Shadowkeep. And even then, I think there were hints, and those hints go all the way back to one of Destiny's, less than favorable moments? Curse of Osiris. We could acquire the 11 prophecy weapons in Curse of Osiris, and they came from the Lighthouse Forge. This was one of the few pursuits in the expansion, but it also came with a few lingering curiosities. Each of these 11 weapons came with a little flavor text, which was supposedly a prophecy of Osiris. There are some of these that are fairly obvious and well understood, such as, say, Conqueror 2 or the Perfect Paradox. Let's pick up Perfect Paradox, for example, which was Saint 14's shotgun, and it was reforged multiple times. Thus, its existence is paradoxical, but the flavor text read, "A tale that's different from the rest. The thread unfurls against the clocks. The one the speaker loved the best must have a perfect paradox." This hinted to us literally saving Saint 14 and breaking time alongside Osiris to bring him back. His existence is a paradox, as is the existence of his shotgun, perfect paradox. And he was indeed the Speaker's most favored servant. In fact, he was so favored that they called each other father and son. So yeah, you can start to understand that each of these prophecy weapons has its own little baked-in story. But why does that pertain to the Witness and everything to do with its origin story, you ask? Well, it matters because the very first of these weapons that you get is called Garden Progeny 1. It's Osiris's scout rifle from the opening cutscene of the Curse of Osiris expansion, and its name is interesting because remember that the people who ultimately turned into the Witness referred to the Traveler as the Gardener, and they most definitely saw themselves as the progeny of that particular moment, that miracle of having discovered the Gardener. They are, to an extent, the Garden Progeny. This could also, of course, reference things like the Sol Progeny discovered within the Black Garden at the very end of D1's campaign, but the quote, the flavor text, I think refers more directly to the Witness's predecessor civilization. And that flavor text is incredible because it reads, "Two siblings cleaved by time and space, reflections never found alone. The ending of the Eldritch race, a path long seen but never known." I think all of this might just reference the predecessor people, their fall, their discovery of the Veil, and their eventual pursuit of the final shape. The two siblings cleaved by time and space might well be the Traveler, which is only made more appropriate as they are reflections of each other, a yin and a yang, so to speak. Reflections never found alone means that they always shared a connection, which they did. A connection which the predecessors tried to strengthen. The ending of the Eldritch race might well refer to how the Witness was created from the merging and end of the predecessor people, its first victims. The path long seen but never known might refer to the final shape itself. A path that ultimately the Witness has been following for eons but has never been able to achieve up until perhaps this moment. Fascinating idea for sure, and I do need to give a shout out to Rhino once again, who runs Destiny Armory, because without him, again, I would never have actually seen a Twitter post on this, and I never would have seen Garden Progeny crossing my desk. So yeah, again, I'll link him down in the description, go and give him a follow. It does make me wonder though, how exactly did Osiris's prophecies reach him? The Osirian cultists only have speculation as to how the lost prophecies were made, and some of them do speculate that there are other methods that Osiris uses that he hasn't disclosed. But it is mentioned that one of the resources Osiris probably used to form those prophecies was the Infinite Forest on Mercury. Oh yeah, by the way, what does the entrance to the Infinite Forest look like again? Oh yeah, it looks like that. It's the exact same symbol on the side of the portal in the Traveler. And a little side note, what about the symbol on the forge showed when you created Garden Progeny 1? Interesting. How about that? A triangle inside a circle. Granted, this one's upside down, but maybe there's another reason for that. Unclear. There's a ton more videos that I need to create here, but if nothing else is clear, I think it's very likely that there will be a video talking about the potential involvement in the Vex in all of this. Back in the day, it was considered to be fairly canon as an understanding that the Vex's origins were explained in the Unveiling Lawbook. But of course, that was always an untrustworthy narrative because, well, the narrator was clearly trying to sway us to the side of darkness. I said as much when I first covered it. Unveiling is one of those lawbooks that you kind of can't trust, and this shows us why. It's not necessarily the exact fact of what happened, but it is a perspective. And that means that if the words within the Unveiling Lawbook on the Vex are even close to accurate, there's a lot more going on with them than seems clear. It's also worth remembering that the Vex are meant to be gardeners of brass, so not sure what's going on there, but yet again, perhaps there's more of a link to the Traveler there. Lots of this still needs to be unraveled, but bit by bit, it'll start from today. At long last, some of the biggest questions in Destiny's universe are going to begin unfolding before us, and whilst we're nowhere close to having all of them answered, I think that this is going to be the beginning of a slow unraveling of things. Lots still to do. All of that being said, I hope you do enjoy the video. There are lots more of these coming over the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to give you all this heads up right now. I won't be there to cover what happens next Tuesday because I am going to be out of the country and away from my desk. So my apologies if I don't quite make it there because yeah, if I can't actually make commentary on the video, then there's going to be a problem with that. Either way, the cool thing is we get to unravel this as it goes, and I'll be able to cover that at some point, but yeah, just know that next reset I won't be able to actually make any content on what happens. So if it seems like I'm beating a dead horse or talking about something that's not relevant, that might well be why. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like, and of course you can also hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. If you have any thoughts of your own, leave them down below in the comments section. But, as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Prodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.